Hey everybody, what's up y'all? Welcome back to my channel. Tammy Talks here. Let's talk Love and Marriage Huntsville Season 5, Episode 1 with low priorities. For those of you that are brand new to my channel, I do breakdowns on various TV shows, interjecting my own thoughts, opinions, and theories into each and every recap or reaction, whichever you want to call it. So if you enjoy that type of content, please consider subscribing to the channel, thumbsing up the video, and then hop in the comment section to let me know that you guys stopped by. Let's go ahead and get into it. So the episode starts off right where the last one left off, with Melody is hosting the opening weekend for the Orion Amphitheater, or the Orion Theater, and Martell brings in the kids. So Miss Van takes the kids to go get like some water, juice, whatever, and Martell and Melody are left sitting there very awkwardly, where Melody is doing everything to not look at him and Martell is staring directly at her. So they do like this awkward high five. Good job, yeah, woo, opening weekend. And it's weird. So Martell sees that conversation is not going to happen. So he eventually just kind of gets up and says he's going to go get the kids. What I thought was crazy, or not crazy, obviously, but she made a point to say, not I'm glad you came, but I'm glad you brought the kids. I'm glad the kids were able to come. So you can see that Melody's still hurt. All right, I don't care what y'all say. Melody is still hurt by the dissolve of this relationship. You can tell the way that she was like kind of looking at him but kind of not. Then when we see her in the next scene getting her makeup touched up, there's like the remnants of tears that like want to come, but it's also being filmed. I don't want nobody to see me. Like there's still pain there on both sides. That's just what it is. So we pan over to the Scotts and the Whitlows at this retreat. So remember, Tisha, when she went to therapy with Dr. Francis, he suggested that they come to this this like marriage counseling weekend. So Maurice and Kimmy arrived there first. Maurice feels that their marriage does not need any help. He said Dr. Francis fixed him. So he's just there to, lend a helping hand to the other couples should they so desire it. And I'm like, Maurice is annoying. Maurice is just as manipulative as Marceau, but because Maurice is more attractive than Marceau, people are kind of like overlooking it. So Tiffany and Louis come in next. While they're all sitting around, they call Tisha, and she's like, there was a mix-up with the nanny. Marceau was like, there was traffic. And Kimmy was like, y'all, we all have commitments. Like, it's fine. Like, we all had commitments. We all had things to do. Y'all can get here. So Kimmy mentions that, Dr. Francis is here waiting. Marcel was like, Dr. Francis, because Tisha told him that they were just all going for just a couple's weekend to chill. So Tiffany then decides to step up and step away for her phone call. And she's like, Louis knew about this, and she just steps away. It wasn't like, oh, excuse me, Dr. Francis, I need to step away. I have to handle a phone call. Excuse me, everybody. It was like, I got a call, and she gets up and she walks away. And Dr. Francis looks mystified. Them eyes was bucking because he was kind of like, she didn't even ask. She just got up and walked away. I thought it was rude as well. So Dr. Francis said that he was expecting everybody to be committed because him and his wife cleared their schedules. They made the commitment to be here, so therefore everyone else should be making the same commitment. And I agree. Don't waste these people's time. So Louis said, well, you can take that up with Tiffany because I'm here and I'm committed. I'm really only speaking for myself. So Louis then goes to find Tiffany. And she's like sitting there responding to emails. See, Tiffany still gets on my nerve because I feel like she's being a bitch about this entire situation. Now, you wanted to come to this retreat. You agreed to come. So, like, why are you being like this about it? Like, I don't understand, like, her having the attitude that, like, they're waiting for her to come so they can get started. That doesn't make sense to me. So he was like, "What's going on?" She's like, "Oh, just finished my phone call. Now I'm responding to emails." And Louis is like, "Well, Dr. Francis is waiting. It's going to be a nice conversation about commitment when you get back." And Tiffany just kind of looks like, "The fuck?" Because Louis and Tiffany, as we find out this episode, feel like they shit don't stink and nobody can say anything to them about anything. So Dr. Francis and his wife are standing outside waiting for Tisha and Marcel. When they pull up, in their confessional, Marcel says that as they were pulling up, they got word that one of Tisha's really good friends from college passed away. So they got like devastating news. So because of that, Dr. Francis was like, "We're going to hold off on, getting in their ass basically about being late, but Tiffany ain't off the hook." So we pan over to Martell. Martell is with his mom, and they go pick up the kids. They're going to pick up the kids from school. He's telling his mom how he took the kids to go support Melody, even though it was his weekend. And Martell makes sure to say that because every chance that Martell gets to speak, he's going to make sure we know I did something that Melody didn't. I did this. Melody didn't do this, but I did this on my week, because he's still mad about him booking a book signing or scheduling a book signing for those kids when it was not his week. He's still bitter about that. So his mom says that Melody needs to let that bitterness go. While she has nothing against Melody, she does feel a way that Melody was like disrespectful to her. The man next door is like hammering. He does feel a way that, or she does feel a way that Melody was like somewhat disrespectful to her. She said that Melody said some things about her online that she didn't really appreciate, but she wishes her all the best. She would never disrespect her because Melody is the mother of her grandchildren. But she does want everybody to, get along and be cordial. Martell believes that his mom and Melody should have a conversation. They show a clip back to the scene where Martell's mother, and Martell were sitting outside, basically insinuating and saying all but with the verbatim words that Miss Van has nothing to do, she doesn't have a life, and that's why she's so involved in Melody and Martell's situation. And Melody apparently took offense to that. So we have Dr. Francis. Now that all three couples are there, they address Tiffany getting up and kind of walking out, and they ask, they write the word game on the board, and they ask, "Are you guys here to play a game or not?" So they call out Tiffany. They say that Louis did nothing and said nothing. He just kind of let Tiffany get up and do whatever. Louis said, "Well, of course, because he's protecting, he has his wife's back." So Dr. Francis is like, "You are protecting Tiffany at the expense of your own growth." I said, whoa. A word, right? So Tiffany said that she was just waiting for the other couples to come so they could all start together. That's not what you were doing. And see, what Tiffany is going to do is, instead of Tiffany just coming out forthright and saying, "I had a work meeting, I absolutely could not move it. I apologize, y'all, but I have to take this call really quick." That's one way to handle it. But Tiffany, like, now going through these hoops, trying to make it seem as if she was really just waiting for everybody else to get there, as if it was, Scotch 1.0, and that's not the case. So Tiffany said that her and Louis are in unison about what's going on. So Dr. Francis said, "Okay, so then you are content to not change." So Tiffany said, "Well, you just want us to follow your guide." And it's like, why are you here? Because let's be real, why are you here if you're going to be this way, if you're going to be rude and disrespectful? Because we have seen y'all talk cash shit about everybody else's marriage. But now that y'all are like in the hot seat, now it's an issue. Now it's, oh, well, we're, you just want us to do what you think. That's how y'all been acting this entire time. So Kimmy calls her out and said that didn't you guys have some disagreements about time and all that type of stuff? Because we just had conversations about that. Tiffany said that she's 100% percent when she's at work, and she's 100% when she's at home, and she said that works for them. And they were like, that no, something is slipping through the cracks. You can't be 100 at work and 100 at home. So they didn't do an activity where they're tying their ankles together, one leg for the husband, one leg for the wife, and they have to kind of walk around for 15 minutes. Now, Marcel and Tisha were doing wonderful with it. They kind of found a rhythm that worked for the both of them. Tiffany kept asking Louis to just pick her up because she didn't want to do it. She didn't like it. Kimmy and Maurice were struggling because Maurice wanted to kind of take the lead because he saw that Marcel and Tisha were doing so well. He wanted to take the lead and start running around and jumping around because that's what his brother was doing. So Kimmy was like, this isn't working, like you're dragging me, you're holding me too tight. So then Maurice is like, well fine, I'll just let you go. And see, Maurice is very passive aggressive in that way. If you don't do things the exact way that he wants them done, then it's like, well, cool, figure it out yourself. I'll let you just do it yourself instead of them coming to some type of like middle ground where everything works out. That's not what Maurice wants to do. So we get a scene where Melody is over at Stormy's house. Stormy has like a Zen peace room where she has some sound bowls. Each bowl represents like, a different feeling, different part of the body, whatever. So they start talking about how Martell showed up with the kids. Melody was saying how awkward it was because she hadn't seen Martell in, a while. So it was kind of awkward. They talk about how the relationship was with his mom. Her mom feels that, she's really like lost the son because they did have such a good bond and been together for so long. They then switch over to Melody's relationship with Martell's mother, and Melody was on some tough guy shit where that's his mama. Everybody has casualties in war. His mom is basically a casualty. We can be cordial together, but we will never get back to like the close relationship that we once had. And I feel like that's understandable. Some people are able to navigate through a divorce where their families, they're able to take the kids over and stuff like that, and it pans out. But there are some relationships where the way that this one ended, I don't see that happening. If everybody can stop talking about everybody else and just live their life, this will be a lot smoother of a transition, not only for them, but for their kids as well. So then we have the dinner. So Dr. Francis is asking them, how did they feel the day went? And Tiffany brings up, they're going around talking or whatever. Tisha brings up like trying to have like a balance between she has young kids. So trying to balance, splitting her time with the kids, splitting her time with her husband, spending her time with work. Dr. Francis brings up the notion of sometimes as your kids get older and they become more and more independent because you've raised them to be independent, you start to be like an empty nester, like a pseudo empty nester, where you have teenagers. They don't need you for a whole lot, especially once they get their license. They don't need you to drive them here, there, and everywhere. They're more independent. They can, for all intents and purposes, fix themselves something to eat. They should be able to wash their clothes and stuff like that. My mom taught us how to wash when we were very young, so we were washing and ironing as part of our chores, like in middle school. So like we were learning how to cook things because my mom worked first shift, my dad worked second shift. So when we got out of school, there was like an hour or two where we were home by ourselves. So we learned how to do different things like that. So then as you get older, you build upon those skills. So by the time you're 16, 17, your child is, extremely independent, and where they don't need you to do a whole lot for them. You know what I mean? Like basic day-to-day stuff at least. So Tiffany is bringing up the fact that she wants to have a baby. So she said, but Louis isn't really on board with it because they are in that mode now where they're like the pseudo empty nesters where their kids are 15 and 16. They don't need a whole lot from them. They don't require a whole lot of attention. Kids that are teenagers, they don't want to be bothered with you anyways. So Dr. Francis talks about how Tiffany has had three major losses. So, when she was given up for adoption at birth, that's one. Two, the fact that the parents that adopted her were on drugs for many years. That's the second loss, because she didn't have like that good familial environment that she might have needed and craved after being given up. And then three, when she got divorced her first time. So he said eventually it's gonna take a toll on their marriage. So Louis was like, it's life, everybody experiences loss. And I feel like Louis just feels like he's such a know-it-all person. He's one of those men that's like, well, I know everything that I need to know already. Ain't a damn thing you can tell me about life. That's how he feels, and he comes across very like cocky with it, and it's very off-putting. It's very off-putting, considering he has so much to say about Marceau and Tisha's relationship when he first met them. Basically, everybody's relationship when they were on that trip. So Dr. Francis said that her wanting to have a baby gives her the reassurance that she will always have somebody that will never leave her. So then Tiffany mentions in her confessional that she does have a fear of being alone and of abandonment. She doesn't like to be alone too much. She likes being around people and doing things all the time, which is probably why Tiffany works so much, so that she is constantly engaging with people, constantly working with people, etc. So Marceau asks, how would their business fare with bringing a newborn into it when you say that when you're at work, you're giving 100, which means you don't have time for anything else when you're in work mode. So Tiffany said that she functions very well in chaos. So Marceau was like, you're going to bring a newborn into chaos? And I'm like, that's true. Just because you function well in chaos doesn't mean you subject an innocent baby into this chaos. So, Louis said something, and Dr. Francis was like, you read a lot of philosophy, don't you? Louis was like, yeah, I read a lot of books, yeah. He was like, I'm somewhat of a teacher. I'm a teacher in this marriage. And everybody was like, oh, shit. And Dr. Francis is just eyes buck, because he is shocked at everything that he's hearing. So Dr. Francis and Louis are kind of going back and forth, because he's like, I forgot the phrase that Dr. Francis used, but he said that Louis does something that keeps him from being vulnerable. He likes to, remove himself from different situations so that he doesn't have to put in his true feelings and whatever in it. Louis is kind of looking like, nah, I don't. So so Kimmy said, you know what, y'all are not like very receptive to advice. Anytime somebody says anything, y'all are acting like there is really nothing that y'all can learn. And they're like, no, that's not true. We're very, very receptive. So Dr. Francis said, everything isn't great in your home. He said he can look at them from the moment they came in, and he is able to see that without them saying anything, without him asking any questions. So they once again get offended. And he's like, remember I asked if y'all wanted to play a game. So now it's going from y'all playing a game to acting as if you're not playing the game. So they're like, so you're saying that our marriage is a fraud, is an act? That's not what it's saying. What he's saying is that y'all like to go around and act as if everything in your life is perfect, as if you have everything under control, as if your marriage, the way that you're running it, is so much better than the way that it really is going. So I see on the preview for next episode, we see them kind of get mad, and they're like, well, I just don't want somebody that doesn't know us to come in and judge us right away, and you know nothing about us. And everybody is like, that's what y'all did to Marceau, so what's the difference? And Louis just sits there looking stupid. I'm surprised Tiffany came back. I know that this is just part of, I know that this was just kind of like part of last season, but like Tiffany and Louis are jarring. Jarring. But let me know what you guys felt about this episode, and I will catch you guys in the next one.